Hello, welcome Prime News. Headline first. South Africa president says 22 killed in South African tavern incident. Norway shaken by deadly attack at Pride Festival. Boris Johnson warns Russian victory in Ukraine would be absolutely catastrophic. Biden urges Western unity on Ukraine amid war fatigue. Paul McCartney joined by Springsteen. Grohl in epic Glastonbury show.
South Africa president says 22 killed in South African tavern incident. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa on Sunday expressed his condolences to the families of 22 people who died at a tavern in East London. Ramaphosa said the victims were teenagers, but it is unclear exactly how old they were. Earlier on Sunday, Sianda Manana, a spokesperson for the Eastern Cape Provincial Health Department, said the bodies of the victims were between 18 to 20 years old. While the president awaits more information on the incident, his thoughts are with the families who have lost children as well as families who are awaiting confirmation of how their children may have been affected. A statement from the presidency said, the president expects the law to take its course following investigations into the tragedy. The statement added, the cause of the incident is currently under investigation. Eastern Cape Police spokesperson Brigadier Thembinkosi Kanana told CNN earlier, many people gathered at the scene trying to find loved ones. National Police Minister Becky Cele traveled to the scene in Scenery Park, where he told a large crowd, the call is on the parents to see that their kids are kept well. The call is on the community to say we can't allow our kids to die. His impromptu visit was broadcast live on television. According to Reuters,
Norway shaken by deadly attack at Pride Festival. Oslo, Norway. Norway's prime minister and members of the royal family joined mourners at a memorial service in Oslo Cathedral Sunday for the victims of a shooting in the capital's nightlife district. A gunman opened fire in central Oslo's bar area early Saturday, killing 2 people. A man in his 50s and another in his 60s, and wounding more than 20 in what the Norwegian security service called an Islamist terror act during the capital's annual LGBTQ Pride Festival. A suspect is in custody. The crime scene included the London pub that is popular with the city's LGBTQ community. But police investigators have said it was unclear whether motive of the assailant, identified as a 42-year-old Norwegian citizen originally from Iran, was hatred towards sexual minorities. Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre said in a speech during Sunday's memorial service that the shooting in the night hours put an end to the Pride Parade, but it did not stop the fight in the efforts to fight discrimination, prejudice and hatred. He also addressed Norway's Muslim community. I know how many of you felt when it turned out that the perpetrator belonged to the Islamic community. Many of you experienced fear and unrest. You should know this, we stand together, we are one community, and we are responsible for the community together, Gahr Støre said during the church service, which was also attended by Crown Princess Mette Marit.
Boris Johnson warns Russian victory in Ukraine would be absolutely catastrophic. Telfsbuchen, Austria allowing Russian President Vladimir Putin to succeed in his invasion of Ukraine would have absolutely catastrophic consequences for the world. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson warned in a CNN interview on Sunday, speaking to Jake Tapper on CNN's State of the Union hours after Russian missiles hit Kyiv, shattering what had been relative calm in the Ukrainian capital. Johnson urged Americans, Britons and others in the West to maintain resolve in punishing Moscow, despite the effect the war has had on global oil prices. I would just say to people in the United States that this is something that America historically does and has to do. And that is to step up for peace and freedom and democracy, Johnson said, and if we let Putin get away with it, and just conquer sizable parts of a free, independent, sovereign country, which is what he is poised to do, then the consequences for the world are absolutely catastrophic. Johnson is joining other G7 leaders in the Bavarian Alps this week for talks centered on the conflict in Ukraine, which has become a grinding conflict of attrition as it enters its 5th month. The leaders are expected to discuss new methods of punishing Moscow, including a ban on new gold imports from Russia that U.S. President Joe Biden announced on Sunday. But hanging over the summit is whether the West can maintain its resolve in punishing Putin amid skyrocketing energy prices and the political backlash the spike has caused for leaders back home.
Biden urges Western unity on Ukraine amid war fatigue. ELMAU, Germany. President Joe Biden and Western allies opened a 3-day summit in the Bavarian Alps on Sunday intent on keeping economic fallout from the war in Ukraine from fracturing the global coalition working to punish Russia's aggression. Britain's Boris Johnson warned the leaders not to give in to fatigue even as Russia lobbed new missiles at Kyiv. The leaders were set to announce new bans on imports of Russian gold, the latest in a series of sanctions the Club of Democracies hopes will further isolate Russia economically. They also were looking at possible price caps on energy meant to limit Russian oil and gas profits that Moscow can pump into its war effort. Russia, in a pre-summit show of force, launched its first missile strikes against the Ukrainian capital in 3 weeks, striking at least 2 residential buildings. According to Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko, Biden condemned Russia's actions as more of their barbarism, and stressed the need for allies to remain firm even as the economic reverberations from the war take an economic toll around the globe. We have to stay together, because Putin has been counting on, from the beginning, that somehow NATO and the G7 would splinter. But we haven't, and we're not going to, Biden said during a pre-summit meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who holds the G7 feat's rotating presidency and is hosting the gathering.
Paul McCartney joined by Springsteen. Grohl in epic Glastonbury show. Paul McCartney was joined by special guests Bruce Springsteen and Dave Grohl in an epic performance at Glastonbury on Saturday night that spanned the first Beatles demo to some of his latest recording. The singer-songwriter, who turned 80 a week ago, was the oldest ever solo headliner at Worthy Farm in southwest England, where the festival celebrated its 50th anniversary 2 years later than planned due to the pandemic, opening with Can't Buy Me Love. McCartney entertained a capacity crowd with songs spanning more than half a century, from Beatles classics to Come On To Me from 2018 album Egypt Station. Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl joined him for I Saw Her Standing There in Band on the Run, receiving a rapturous welcome from the audience, following his friend from the West Coast of America. McCartney introduced another surprise from the East Coast of America, Bruce Springsteen. The two played Glory Days and I Wanna Be Your Man. McCartney, one of the greatest songwriters of the 20th century with the late John Lennon, paid tribute to his former bandmates in the near 3-hour show. He played George Harrison's Something and performed a virtual duet with Lennon on I've Got a Feeling. Grohl and Springsteen came back for the final encore of The End from Abbey Road. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Glasto, McCartney said before leaving the stage. Glastonbury Festival concludes on Sunday with Diana Ross playing the Sunday afternoon legends Slaw and Kendrick Lamar headlining on the Pyramid stage.